The air in the lecture hall hummed with nervous energy. Alien students from a dozen different worlds fidgeted in their seats, exchanging uneasy glances. Some had already heard the rumors. Humans from Earth, designated as a death world, had been invited to introduce their so-called pets to the class. Everyone knew Earth was a planet where survival was a daily battle, where life evolved in violent, extreme conditions. So, what did humans consider safe companions? And more importantly, were they truly safe for everyone else? Rin, a young student from the peace-loving Andrel species, sat near the front. His blue skin shimmered under the soft lights, and his wide, black eyes darted toward the door every few seconds. His 3 fingers tapped rhythmically on the desk, an unconscious sign of rising tension. The rest of his classmates seemed equally anxious. Some whispered among themselves, others kept their gazes fixed on the door, awaiting the human arrival. "Do you think they'll bring something dangerous?" Rin murmured, more to himself than anyone else. Before anyone could respond, the door hissed open. A tall figure strode in, backlit by the corridor's sterile glow. Zara, one of the few humans on the station, entered with her usual confident gait. She carried a large, nondescript crate with ease, setting it down at the front of the room. Her brown hair was tied back, her dark eyes scanning the classroom, but her expression was calm, too calm, thought Rin. "Good afternoon, everyone," Zara said, her voice steady. "I hear some of you are curious about Earth's creatures." Professor Carr, an elder from the rational, logic-driven Valkyr species, stood stiffly at the side of the room, his arms crossed. His green scales gleamed under the classroom's lights, and his red eyes tracked Zara with thinly veiled skepticism. "Curious, yes," he said slowly, "but also cautious. We understand Earth's wildlife is unpredictable." Zara smiled, a slight curve of her lips. "Unpredictable, perhaps, but not uncontrollable." She knelt down, her hands tapping a hidden switch on the crate. "Allow me to introduce you to my pets." The room fell into a hushed silence. The crate rattled slightly, and Rin instinctively recoiled. A few students leaned forward, their eyes wide with both fascination and fear. The crate's lid opened with a low hiss, and for a brief moment, nothing happened. Then, with a soft growl, the first creature emerged. It was massive, far larger than Rin had expected. Its body was sleek and muscular, covered in dark, bristling fur. It had the build of a predator, with sharp, gleaming eyes and teeth that looked designed to tear through armor. Yet, despite its fearsome appearance, it padded calmly to Zara's side, its gaze sweeping the room with an unsettling intelligence. Zara scratched behind its ear, as if the terrifying beast was a mere house pet. "This is Fong. He's from a species native to Earth's wilderness, a predator, yes, but highly loyal once a bond is formed." Professor Carr frowned. "A predator? And you've domesticated it? Remarkable, but also reckless." Zara shrugged, her casual posture at odds with the tension filling the room. "Humans have learned to adapt to their environment. Forming partnerships with creatures like Fong is part of how we survived on Earth. He's more than just a pet, he's an ally." The professor remained unconvinced, but Zara was already moving to the next reveal. A small, insect-like creature floated up from the crate, its wings emitting a soft, rhythmic hum. Its multifaceted eyes gleamed with intelligence, and it flitted between Zara and Fong, hovering like an attentive guardian. "And this," Zara said with a grin, "is Spark. Don't let the size fool you, he's more than capable of handling himself." The room buzzed with whispers. Aliens glanced at one another, clearly unnerved. Rin's mind raced. He had expected something exotic, perhaps even dangerous, but this was beyond anything he had imagined. The creatures weren't just animals. They were intelligent, lethal, and loyal. How had humans tamed such creatures? And why? Before Rin could form a coherent thought, a student from the back raised a hand. "Are they dangerous to us?" Zara's smile didn't waver. "Only if you give them a reason to be." The silence that followed was thick with tension. Rin felt a cold knot tighten in his stomach as he locked eyes with Fong. There was something about the creature's gaze, something that suggested it understood far more than they realized. Professor Carr finally spoke, breaking the heavy quiet. I hope your confidence is well placed, human. We will see if your pets are as trustworthy as you claim. Zara met his gaze unwavering. You'll see, Professor. They always are. The class was dismissed, but tension clung to the air like static. Zara leaned against the wall near the door, her arms crossed as she watched the students file out, their hushed conversations trailing behind them. Fong sat at her feet, his ears perked as his gaze followed each alien that passed by. Spark flitted in slow, lazy circles above them, casting shifting shadows on the smooth floor. Rin lingered, his mind still racing. He had questions, too many to sort through. What kind of world could produce such creatures? And what kind of person could control them with such ease? He hesitated near the door, his blue skin now slightly dimmed, betraying his unease. Before he could talk himself out of it, he turned back. Excuse me, he called softly. Zara's dark eyes met his, unreadable. For a moment, Rin thought he'd made a mistake. But she raised a brow, intrigued, and gestured for him to approach. Something on your mind? She asked, her tone casual, but her posture straightened. Fong, at her feet, let out a low, rumbling sound, though it was difficult to tell if it was a warning or simple curiosity. Rin swallowed, glancing nervously at the massive creature. They seem intelligent. More than just animals. Zara's lips twitched into a half-smile. You're right. They are intelligent. In fact, sometimes I think Fong might be smarter than some of the people I've worked with. Rin's eyes widened at the thought. How can you control them like that? Zara knelt beside Fong, ruffling the fur behind his ears as the creature leaned into her touch. It's not about control. It's trust earned, not forced. On Earth, survival means forming alliances, sometimes with the most unlikely partners. You learn that very quickly. Rin nodded, though his mind spun with 100 more questions. Before he could ask another, Professor Carr entered the hall, his red eyes gleaming with suspicion. The tension returned instantly. Human, Carr said, his voice clipped. A word. Zara rose slowly, her relaxed demeanor hardening. Of course, Professor. Rin instinctively stepped back, sensing the shift. The professor's towering presence filled the space, and even Fong, who had been calm moments before, seemed to stiffen under the alien's gaze. You must understand the risk you are taking by bringing such creatures onto this station. Carr continued, his words measured but biting. We have protocols, rules for safety, which you seem intent on testing. Zara didn't flinch. I'm fully aware of the station's rules, Professor. Fong and Spark are no threat unless provoked. I can assure you of that. Carr's gaze flicked to Fong, who met it with an unwavering stare. And how can we be certain of that? A creature from a death world, tamed or not, is a liability. The word liability hung in the air like a challenge. Spark, hovering nearby, let out a low hum, and Zara's jaw tightened. But she remained composed. They are only a liability, Zara said, her voice cool, if you assume the worst of them. Just as humans were once considered liabilities before we proved our place among the stars. Carr's face twitched at the remark. The room seemed to shrink, the walls pressing in as the tension between them grew. For a moment, it felt as if something was going to snap. Rin, caught in the middle, shuffled his feet, wishing he could disappear. His instinct told him to flee, but his curiosity kept him rooted to the spot. The professor finally spoke, his voice low and controlled. I hope you're not implying that you, like your pets, are here to test our patience. Zara smiled, though it didn't reach her eyes. No, Professor. I'm here to show you there's more to survival than just following the rules. Carr narrowed his eyes, his rigid stance speaking volumes. He stepped forward, his voice barely above a whisper. This station is not your death world. Here, we value control. Don't mistake our patience for weakness. With that, he turned on his heel and left, the echo of his steps fading down the hall. Zara let out a slow breath, her posture relaxing just slightly. Fong, still sitting beside her, let out a soft growl, as if sharing her frustration. Spark buzzed lower, its wings humming in the otherwise quiet space. Rin, unsure of what to say, finally spoke up. Do you think they'll listen? Zara glanced at him, her eyes softening. They'll listen. But whether they understand? That's a different story. The hall fell into an uneasy silence once more. Outside, the distant hum of the station systems droned on, but for Rin, the weight of what had just transpired lingered heavily. Come on, Fong, Zara said, breaking the silence. Let's show them what we're made of. As she walked away, Fong trotting by her side and Spark trailing close behind, Rin was left standing alone. His thoughts churned with a strange mix of awe and fear. There was more to the human than he had first realized, more than any of them realized. And somehow, Rin knew that whatever was coming next, it would shake the station to its core. The lights in the station's central hall flickered, casting long, eerie shadows against the metallic walls. A sense of unease permeated the air, a subtle shift in the atmosphere that hadn't gone unnoticed by those aboard. Tensions were rising, and not just between individuals. Something larger was brewing. Zara walked with her usual confident stride, but her mind was anything but calm. Fong padded silently at her side, his head swiveling slightly as if sensing something off. Spark darted ahead, wings humming softly in the stillness. The alien station was starting to feel like a cage, a place where every step was watched, every word weighed. It wasn't the first time Zara had been in a hostile environment, but it was the first time she'd felt this outnumbered. As she rounded a corner, she nearly collided with Rin. His wide eyes betrayed the panic that had gripped him, his usual calm demeanor frayed at the edges. Zara! He blurted out, his voice low but urgent. You need to come with me. Now. Zara frowned, noting the tremor in his voice. What's going on? Rin glanced nervously around, lowering his voice to a whisper. There's a meeting, an emergency session of the council. It's about you. Zara's eyes narrowed. Me? What have I done now? It's not just you, Rin said quickly. It's your companions. The council is afraid. They think Fong and Spark are too dangerous to be here. Zara let out a bitter laugh. Of course they do. They're terrified of anything they can't control. Rin took a step closer, his eyes pleading. You don't understand. They're planning to expel you from the station. And if you refuse, they'll detain you. I'm worried they might try to. Zara raised a hand to cut him off. Let them try, she said, her voice cold. I didn't come here to be pushed around by a bunch of bureaucrats who've never set foot on a real planet. Rin's voice dropped even lower. Please, Zara. Don't underestimate them. The council doesn't handle fear well, and right now, you're a symbol of everything they don't understand. If you confront them, it could escalate. Zara clenched her jaw, considering his words. Fong let out a low growl, sensing the rising tension in his human. Spark, ever watchful, landed softly on her shoulder, wings folding back as if waiting for the next move. Where's this meeting? Zara asked finally, her voice steely. Rin hesitated. You're going to confront them, aren't you? Zara gave him a hard look. I'm going to make them listen. Without waiting for a reply, Zara strode down the hallway, her pace quickening with every step. Rin followed, though he kept a nervous distance behind, his mind racing. He'd known humans were bold, but this was something else entirely. He wasn't sure if Zara was brave or reckless. The council chamber loomed ahead, its doors tall and imposing. The faint murmur of voices could be heard through the thick walls. Zara paused for a moment, her hand hovering over the entrance panel. She took a deep breath, her mind sharpening as she steeled herself for what was to come. With a firm press of her hand, the doors slid open. Inside, the chamber was filled with the council members, alien dignitaries of various species, their attention snapping to Zara as she entered. The air in the room immediately grew thick with tension, every eye fixed on her. At the center of the room stood Professor Carr, his expression unreadable but his posture tense. Human, Carr said, his voice reverberating in the chamber. You were not summoned to this meeting. Zara stepped forward, her gaze sweeping the room. I wasn't, but it seems I'm the topic of discussion, so I figured I'd join. A murmur rippled through the crowd, but Zara remained unflinching. Fong moved with her, his eyes scanning the room with predatory focus. Spark flitted above her head, casting faint shadows that seemed to dance across the council members. This is a violation, one council member hissed, a reptilian being with gleaming, silver scales. Your creatures have no place here, nor do you, human. Zara's lips curled into a smirk. Creatures? Fong and Spark are my team, and I won't stand by while you insult them. You've already judged us, but none of you know what we're capable of. You're afraid because we don't fit into your neat little boxes. Well, too bad. We didn't come here to be judged, we came to offer something you're clearly lacking. And what's that? Carr asked, his tone dripping with skepticism. Zara met his gaze, her voice unwavering. Strength. Courage. The ability to survive where you wouldn't last a day. The chamber fell silent, her words hanging in the air like a challenge. Zara could feel the weight of the council's collective doubt, but she didn't flinch. This was who she was, a survivor, and she wasn't about to let fear-mongering politicians decide her fate. Carr's eyes narrowed. You assume much, human. But your arrogance will be your downfall. Zara didn't blink. We'll see about that. The silence in the council chamber was deafening, thick with anticipation. Zara's heart pounded in her chest as she stood at the center of the room, unyielding. She could feel the tension radiating from the gathered council members like an electric charge, each one weighing their options in this unexpected confrontation. Carr, the reptilian leader, adjusted his posture, the metallic gleam of his scales catching the light as he leaned forward. You overestimate your position here, human. We have laws for a reason. You and your companions have threatened the stability of this station. Zara crossed her arms defiantly. You think I'm a threat because I brought my team? I'm here to help. You need us. A ripple of murmurs passed through the council, many exchanging wary glances. One particularly large, four-armed alien scoffed, his many eyes narrowing. What could you possibly offer us that we can't accomplish ourselves? Zara took a deep breath, her resolve firming. You can't even handle your own fears. Your arrogance has blinded you to the realities of the galaxy. Every day, you isolate yourselves further, convinced of your superiority while the real dangers grow outside your walls. We've faced those dangers, and survived. Professor Carr's jaw tightened, his expression hardening. You presume much, human. It is you who are isolated here, with your feral beasts. You speak of strength, yet your pets are nothing but distractions. Fong growled lowly, a sound that sent a ripple of unease through the chamber. Zara placed a hand on his back, calming him with a gentle touch. They're not distractions, they're allies. They've been my companions in the most dangerous situations you can imagine. Have any of you ever faced a Deathworlder threat? Have you even set foot on a planet where survival isn't guaranteed? The silence that followed was palpable, the council members shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Zara pressed on, seizing the moment. You live in your sanitized environment, surrounded by soft beds and sterile walls, while we've learned to adapt, to thrive. You fear what you don't understand, and that fear is your greatest weakness. Carr raised an eyebrow, a flicker of interest crossing his face. You claim to offer strength, yet your kind is marked by conflict and chaos. Why should we trust you? Because, Zara shot back, her voice unwavering. We know how to fight for what's right. We stand up when others would cower. Your fear has left you vulnerable, and that could lead to your downfall. I'm not asking for your trust, I'm demanding your respect. The room erupted into heated debate, voices overlapping as council members whispered among themselves, weighing Zara's words. Rin stood to the side, watching, concern etched on his face. Zara had always been tenacious, but this was a gamble. If they didn't take her seriously, it could lead to dire consequences. Enough! Carr bellowed, silencing the chamber. Let us consider what the human offers. We have a duty to maintain order. But if her claims are true, we cannot afford to ignore them. Zara felt a spark of hope. Perhaps she could sway them after all. Let me prove my worth. Allow Fong and Spark to demonstrate what we can do together. If I fail, you can do whatever you wish. But if I succeed, she let her words hang in the air, letting them sink in. The tension shifted, a flicker of curiosity replacing some of the fear. Carr's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Very well. We shall observe your little demonstration. But know this, failure is not an option. If you do not succeed, there will be consequences. Zara nodded, a steely determination settling over her. Understood. As the council members began to deliberate the specifics of the demonstration, Zara felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through her veins. This was her chance to change their perceptions, to show them that humanity, and her companions, were anything but mere curiosities. Rin, gather a small group of volunteers, she instructed, turning her gaze to him. We'll need to prepare. He nodded, moving quickly to gather those who might join her. Zara took a moment to breathe, focusing on the sounds of the chamber, the hum of conversation, the shuffle of feet. Fong remained close, his presence a steady comfort. Spark hovered above her, ready for whatever lay ahead. Zara! Rin called, his voice breaking through her thoughts. They're ready for you. Zara took one last deep breath, mentally preparing herself. This wasn't just a test, it was a chance to rewrite the narrative, to prove that humanity had much to offer in a galaxy that too often underestimated them. As she stepped forward to face the council, she felt a thrill of defiance coursing through her veins. No more hiding, no more retreating. Today, she would draw the line in the sand, ready to show them what true strength looked like. Zara stood at the edge of the training arena, the vast space buzzing with energy. Above her, the observation deck loomed like a predatory bird, council members watching intently as she prepared to demonstrate the true power of humanity and their allies. Fong and Spark flanked her, their presence a mix of reassurance and tension. She could feel the weight of their eyes on her, both the councils and the audience that had gathered. Are you ready? Rin's voice broke through her concentration. He stood nearby, his brow furrowed in concern. I am, she replied, her tone steady. We'll show them what we can do. Just remember, he said, glancing at the deck above. They're not here to make friends. If this goes south, you could be in serious trouble. Zara nodded, the gravity of his words sinking in. The stakes had never felt higher. She took a moment to center herself, allowing the noise of the arena to fade into a dull hum. The smell of metal and the faint echo of murmurs surrounded her, grounding her in the moment. With a quick glance at Fong, she summoned her resolve. We begin with the agility drill. Spark, you ready? The small drone whirred in response, its lights flickering in an eager rhythm. Fong huffed, muscles rippling under his dark fur as he prepared for action. Let's show them. Zara stepped forward, raising her hand to signal the start of the demonstration. The council members leaned in closer, their expressions shifting from skepticism to curiosity. Begin! Zara shouted, her voice cutting through the tension. Fong sprang into action, a blur of motion as he darted across the arena, demonstrating his incredible speed and agility. The audience gasped as he weaved through a series of obstacles, climbing, jumping, and sliding with a grace that belied his imposing size. Zara's heart raced in time with Fong's movements, each leap sending ripples of excitement through the crowd. Look at that! Rin exclaimed, a hint of pride in his voice. He's incredible! Wait for it, Zara said, her eyes fixed on Fong. He reached the final obstacle, a high wall that loomed like a challenge. With a powerful push, he leaped into the air, his body twisting gracefully before landing on the other side. The arena erupted in cheers, and for a moment, Zara allowed herself to bask in the applause. Now, for the next phase, she said, clapping her hands to regain focus. Spark, time to showcase your utility. The drone hovered above them, sensors whirring as it prepared for its part of the demonstration. With a flick of her wrist, Zara activated a series of holographic targets scattered around the arena. Let's see how fast you can hit them. Initiating rapid-fire mode, Spark announced, its tone crisp and eager. The drone darted forward, a streak of light as it targeted the holograms. One by one, they exploded in bursts of color, each impact sending a thrill of excitement through the audience. The council members exchanged glances, some leaning forward in fascination. Zara grinned, adrenaline surging. "Now we'll show you the real team dynamic." She gestured to Fong, who responded instantly, launching himself towards Spark. As he approached, Spark changed its trajectory, leading Fong into a series of complex maneuvers that showcased their synchronization. They moved as one, Fong dodging and weaving, while Spark provided cover and distraction. "Look at them go!" Rin shouted, his enthusiasm contagious. The tension in the arena shifted as the demonstration continued, the council members' expressions evolving from skepticism to intrigue. Zara could sense the shift, the growing realization that maybe, just maybe, they were underestimating humanity and its companions. Suddenly, a voice broke through the din. "Impressive, but can they handle a real challenge?" Zara turned to see Carr, his reptilian gaze fixed on her with an intensity that sent a chill down her spine. "Show us how you perform under pressure. Bring in the distractions." "Distractions?" Zara repeated, her confidence wavering for the first time. "Something to test their limits," Carr continued, a hint of a smirk on his scaly lips. "Let's see how well they can adapt when faced with true chaos." Zara glanced at Rin, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. "What does he mean?" Without warning, the arena's atmosphere shifted as mechanical drones descended from the ceiling, whirring to life with an ominous hum. They positioned themselves around the training area, their lights blinking ominously. Zara felt the tension spike as the realization set in. This was no ordinary test. "Fong, stay alert!" she called, her voice steady despite the unease creeping in. "Spark, prepare for evasive maneuvers." The drones activated, darting towards them in a flurry of motion, laser lights illuminating the arena. Fong snarled, muscles coiling as he readied himself for action. Zara's heart raced, the stakes now higher than ever. "Remember, we're a team!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. The drones advanced, and as they attacked, the arena exploded into a whirlwind of sound and movement. Zara's mind sharpened, instincts kicking in as she fought to keep control. This was her moment to prove that humanity was more than just a curiosity. They were a force to be reckoned with. As Fong lunged at the nearest drone, Zara felt a surge of determination. The council would see. Today, they would understand the strength of unity, the power of adaptability, and the resilience of the human spirit.